Welcome to the Train to Trainer session of the AcaSTEMy project. The AcaSTEMy project is one of the teacher academies funded by the European Union. And today we are going through different approaches how to make asynchronous online learning easier for our teacher education models. The aim and objective of today is to learn more about good practices and good examples of how to enhance this flexibility of online learning in our project models and micro-credentials. Of course, these are very useful for all the STEM educators and teacher educators around the Europe and the world. So please welcome to our Train to Trainer session. I hope that all the content is very helpful for you. Today's agenda, we have first we have 3 keynote experts. We have one presentation about learning analytics and how learning analytics is meaningful for us as a teacher and how it is used for enhancing our online learning activities and what we are supposed to do next when we are trying to more develop our models or our teaching and learning for the students. The second keynote is about peer assessment, and then we are going to hear about one of the Moodle's practical tool for how to make the peer assessment much more easier for teachers to arrange, and we are going to hear about detailed instructions how to put up this workshop activity. The third keynote is about the scenario tool from a company called ThingLink. ThingLink is one of our associated partners in this AcaSTEMy project, AcaSTEMy Teacher Academy. And in this part, we are going to hear about how artificial intelligence is used to build up scenarios or presentations for our models, for our online learners, to be to have much more visual illustrations about whatever content we are trying to teach them. After these keynotes, we are going to approach our hands-on part of this session. But before that, we are going through our testing environment in our Moodle to see what it includes and how we're going to work on that. So that's what we are going through next, before the hands-on, when we are working in groups and trying to make our models much more student-friendly, much more flexible and asynchronous in terms of online learning. And for the dessert today, in the end, we have a presentation about our e-manual, which is going to be published in this project. The e-manual is aimed to help both teacher educators, but also teachers to enhance their STEM education in multiple ways. But before we start, I want to remind of different guidelines for participation today. First, during the presentations, you can always use the chat tool to make comments or ask questions. After each presentation, we have time for a few questions also. And whenever you want to raise a question, then please use the Zoom's raise your hand tool so we can see who has the question to be asked. During the group work stage, we kindly ask the moderators to lead the discussion, but of course you can agree in a collaborative way of the ways of working during that stage. Let's start our keynote expert speeches and presentations. First, we have Vesa Pajanen from the University of Eastern Finland. He is an expert of learning analytics, and he is here to talk about his practical examples and experiences of how he has approached the learning analytics, and especially with the Moodle platform. We are hearing about different theoretical backgrounds but also why learning analytics is really important in teacher's job or teacher educator's job to enhance and develop his or her models further towards more asynchronous online learning. So, the floor is yours, Vesa.
Yes, thank you. I will share my screen. Yes. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vesa-Paine. I work here at the University of Eastern Finland. And I'm now talking about learning analytics and how we can use inexpensive tools. So what we have information from Moodle, etc. So how we can help the students, because the challenge exists in especially in large courses that all the students look quite much the same, but actually they might have different kind of background. So they might be that they have different kind of knowledge, and so actually therefore all the students are actually individuals. And so there might be some people that are coming directly from college to university. They are usually tending to do whatever the teacher is asking, but they need clear instructions. And then we have students in the classroom that are they know already that okay, they want to focus on this and this thing. So they are like a research type uh, students, I would say, that they are highly motivated. Maybe not motivated on some basic level courses because they already have information, or they might be that they are focused only on short certain area. Then we have people, for example, in adult education, we on who are have challenges on their they are working all the time, and they have limited time for their studies. So if we are having lectures from 10 to noon every day, they are not joining those courses at all. And then it might be that they have forgotten the learning skills already. So we if they've been in the working life for 10 years or whatever, and nowadays they have family and etc. So they can't do the same thing as we're doing in college. And then we can have students that are not even knowing that okay, they want to be on the course. And so we have different kind of students, and therefore we should have different kind of approaches to help these students through to get them passing the course, because it's a kind of beaker that okay, we get the credits and degrees, but then in there are filters that some people students are stacked there, and not so they are failing on the causes. And I'm interested on the factors that are preventing or slowing down this process, or are there any pathways that some students are using and that's why they are passing the course and some students not. So how we can of course the students must work during the course, but there might be that they if we help them a little bit on this process, then they can find out the way to successfully learn, and especially in large courses. 2016 was the first course that I held with over 100 students, and they were in two different towns, and people were saying that okay, you should be in lecture room in Joensuu, and then in Kuopio they can watch it on TV or whatever. And I was saying no, that's not the way. I'm going to work. And especially because on these there are also huge amount of students that are in the adult training. So this open university, then students from geography or from other fields of science, or then from humanities, etc. So there is a huge variance of different kind of students, and I didn't believe that my older colleagues were always saying that okay, it's these not the major study students, but the others that are failing on the course. and so there might be different kind of problems in the or challenges in the among the students as well. For example, there is no course progress, so it might be in some cases that okay, the student can't find or have access to the learning material, or they might be that they are working but they are working too slow, so they have other course. Usually they have other courses or going on, or then uh, in some cases I have already seen that okay, it's students are working but they are working too much for the course I'm holding. It's they are writing pages and pages and pages when I ask them to write a short half a page summary. And then it might be the low scores also. So it's they are misunderstanding okay what you are asking, or they might be that they are misunderstanding that okay this segment is very important and its effects on their learning outcomes. Or they if they don't have access to the scores or feedback or model answers, how on earth they can learn that okay, what should they answer on this course, what we are expecting. Okay, the learning analytics is the tool that I've been using for 8 years or whatever on all my courses, because it's a quite large umbrella of actually anything that happens on the course that we think at least that okay it's related on the learning outcomes, and then it's also affecting on the so we can optimize the learning and the environments. And it has several steps. Not only the data that okay the students are doing something in the classroom or in the LMS, but also we need some math to calculate that okay how these uh, uh, how they what they've been doing, and if we have them in numbers. So okay, for example, how many times they've been in the classroom in a meeting. And then we can get the reports or some kind of graphical presentation. And last but not least, in the learning analytics, so we have to have some consequences. So this report must be affecting on what we are going to do to help them or scaffolding for the study work. So it's a cyclic process. So we are measuring something, and we hope that okay we are measuring the right thing. We might be measuring that okay what are the learning results or study activity, how many days they've been in the LMS, or how many times they've been repeating certain quiz, or even some people are in learning analytics asking their attitudes every day they are joining, and then how it affects on their learning. But also on the report side. So if we are giving the information to students, then we can give them some recommendations. So okay, you've been you're a little bit lagging behind on others, so please hurry up. Or giving guidance that okay, if this study material is too difficult, then you could use this and these materials also. Or then self-reflection, so the students can make the judgment him or herself that okay, I've been a little bit late on these on the submissions, but anyway, I know that okay, after 2 weeks I can find time, or etc. And why I think in the course level, this the learning analytics is you should be done that okay, I can find the best practices on the course elements that I'm using, and of course it doesn't help the students on that year, but it might be helping them next year. Then the learning outcomes of the course, those are so what if we have some I give them assessment, and I know that okay, they've been spending 24 hours on that, so it's a very huge task. So it might be that if I should reduce the workload of it, or then I could have the real-time tracking, so the students can self-evaluate the workload I've been now this fall. We've been testing that. Okay, they all the time know that. Okay, how many hours they've been on the LMS, for example. And I thought that okay, it's completely waste of time to use it. But then on the second course I had, we didn't have the time, so they were asking, okay, can we have it because they think that like it's benefit. Or then we can find out that okay, these students have the challenges, so have early interventions. So these are something that okay we should have on the course level. Of course, learning analytics can be quite different things. So it might be also in department level we are checking that okay which courses are the students are not passing. So if it's too difficult, or we are not taking the students in the course, or if it's just something that should be done on certain course, or even in macro level learning analytics, so the rectors etc. could compare different study programs that okay which are the most effective. So in some cases, the learning analytics is definitely something that you all have done sometime, although you didn't know that okay, what is the learning analytics? So you've been studying that okay, or trying to find out that okay, why why one course was not so good as previously one. So, okay, this was one course I held last spring, and you typically these are different student groups and the number size of the group and the pass rate. And there's one group that had less than 50% of the students were passing the course. So they had a high dropout rate. And then I was okay wondering that why they had. Okay, it was the only major group that I didn't meet them on site. I had to already scheduled that. Okay, I'm going there to Kuopio to meet them, but unfortunately that schedule didn't last, so I didn't meet them, and I think that's the reason there was more failing, and therefore okay, let's this time take more buses from Joensuu to Kuopio to meet them. So it's doesn't have to be so difficult. But with Moodle, we can have several different things that we can different kind of information to use for the analytics. So what I quite often use, I like to use the log files themselves, but they are very far from user-friendly material. Then we can have some reports in the Moodle or completion traction, or quite often it's a Moodle or the LMS is only one part of the information that I'm using. For example, if I'm meeting the students in the lecture room, I have some list that okay who were participants, and then I can use that material also. So the log files, it's actually having all the time all the information with the used by all these learning analytics tools. So, for example, over here, it's having the on what day and what time the user has been using, who has been using, what element he's been using, and then even the IP address, etc. And there might be 5,000, or in some of my courses, maybe 500,000 rows of this kind of material. And then there are, of course, there are plenty of things that I don't need, but when trying to analyze that, okay, on how many days certain people certain name exist, or how many times certain person has used certain module, or when he or she has used it, etc. So it's very time consuming to trying to find out and then to make some kind of idea that okay, who are those who are passing the course or not. Then we can help it a little bit with the reports, And with reports, there are several reports in different Moodles, and most of them are not something that are very useful for my purpose. So activity report, I would put my thumb down because it's I don't need the information to 1,000 weaves on the news. There's course participation from which I can see that if some students have been in one quiz for 10 times or 12 times, etc. But not I will not do that during the course going on. Then the activity completion is something that I collect every week to see that how the progress is going. And then we have statistics or graded charges or content access that or even the time of the active students when they are doing it. And I'm not interested in this at all. But then the hits distribution is very effective because it's then I can find number that how many days certain student have been there, how many materials he has opened, how many events there should be, and there's some simple graphical presentation on which days the students has been active. So there are only two things that I'm using, but I'm using them every week. So the activity completion, there are some marks, but there's direct. Usually, it can be exported in Excel file, and then I can find out that how many activities the student has finished. So if the course is ending, for example, after 1 month or whatever, then I can calculate the estimate that will the student pass in the time or not. Or then even they get the information when the events have been done, so I can then calculate that who were doing it during the certain time, etc. Then the activity distribution is much more difficult because it's this Moodle information. It's very slow report. This is a very boring video there going on, so it's just to show that it takes a lot of time to open it. On this course, I had maybe only 150 students or whatever, and it's still loading it. And the problem is that in the Moodle itself, there's no export button on it. So when it opens, then I had to copy paste the whole page on a text editor, and then after that I can put it on Excel macro to put all the information in on the same rows, and then after that I can start finding the students at risk. We are not going to watch this video completely because it takes 2 minutes per course every time I do it, and I do it every week. Then, of course, we have in Moodle, we have completion traction, so these traffic lights. And students seems to be that they are like it to have that, I just yesterday I got information that, in this essay, there was no traffic light, so I submitted it, but didn't get the green light. Okay, let's add it. But then also it works as traffic control, so I can get simple information that, some students are passing the course completely, some are stuck in the first thing, etc. And especially because I have in courses, I have certain events that this is the place where I want to see that have they passed or not, have they submitted or not. So the Moodle data, it gives us several things, but it should be complete, so there should be no gaps. It should be consistent, so we can combine all the information. It should be accurate. It should be timelines, valid, and unique. But the challenge exists that Moodle is not the information that we get from the Moodle is sometimes it's not extremely reliable. So it can be that okay, it gives you information that okay, these students are in the risk of dropping out. And 2 years ago, I was calculating them every week. So the activity distribution gives information that okay, how many course hits we have, days in the access, but there's also the yellow line that okay, giving the comments that okay, these students have not been in the course during the last week or whatever. And we can see that okay, all the other lines are pretty much unconstant, but then this one is actually giving information that okay, all the students are on the risk, and that's of course that's not possible. Or then we can have even list that okay, the student Moodle is sending to teachers that okay, who are not who been present on during the last month, and it's a quite limited number of students, and even worse, it contained also students that are not very, they are not at the moment anymore because they have actually passed the course. So therefore, the students, teachers should be doing also other things than just looking that okay, this is the list of the students that who are under risk. Or then it might be that when I was calculating, okay, how many days you have been there, so we actually can be making some small mistakes. So it's during 1 week, it can be that okay, they are 1 day less active. Or it might be that okay, in some cases it's also it's not very completely accurate, the information from different sources. So also might be that okay, it's we can use it even when but it might be that there are so small changes in the numbers also. But anyway, we can have different things that are affecting on the who will pass the course or not. And last but not least, I will show you some examples that are how I'm using this learning analytics. So from the LMS log data, and I did it two ways. So either with the exam with summative format and then with formative assessment, and with formative assessment when they can do and redo the 10 weekly writings, it might be that it's affect they are behaving differently, and when with the learning analytics, we can see that okay, it's more they are studying, they better they are higher grade they are getting, and more they're using more lectures, they are using more quizzes, etc. But then this is the very typical challenge in all the courses with exams. So there is a very high activity just on the last night. And it's of course it's affecting that okay, it's okay, can we get the Moodle going on and not crashing, but also it's caused by bulimia pedagogy. So we have students who are active only on the last night, and they are the ones that are failing, and this is the only way we can detect them with checking that okay, how many days they've been active. Or then if they are getting 50%, 60%, 70, 80, 90% of the maximum points, then the activity is happening on more on steady pace. So it's actually meaning that these students who are failing the course, they are failing it because they are studying on the wrong way and only on the last night. And if we would make them to do more during the course, they would. I think they would pass the course anyway. So it's not that they are lazy or don't have the background information. But then, if we are changing to the taking off these exams, then with the formative assessment, we can see that there is a huge difference in the. They are getting more high grades, and it's because they were studying more. So it was not that these writings were more simple or they were doing it with artificial intelligence, but they were studying 3 times more, for example, videos, etc. And then we don't need any more peaks. But anyway, even in these, those students who are failing, they are failing because they are using it much less than other people, and therefore, well, we'll skip that. Therefore, I use learning analytics for this purpose. So students who are failing, they are failing in all cases because they are already in the beginning. They are studying much slower pace than others, and so 70% of the average after 1 week, if you are studying at least that much, so 80% likelihood is that okay, you are passing the course, but then below that it's only 40%. So therefore, I try to find every week the students who are lagging behind and sending them a simple message that okay, this course is going on, and therefore we could find out and help them to get on the right tracks and get them to pass the course. Usually they have very good excuses, so they are saying that okay, it's because they've been so busy. But anyway, I think the idea is that okay, they like that okay, someone is interested of their studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Vesa, for your presentation. And like I said in the chat, please feel free to test everything that is kind of implemented or shown to you on the expert presentations. You can test the reports on our DigiCampus environment and so on. But do you have any questions for Vesa at the moment? You can write it on the chat or just raise your hand.
Yeah, there's Monica at least asking on the reports. I think they all exist. I think most of them exist in all kind of Moodles.
Yeah, they're a pretty foundational thing for a Moodle environment. So at least you are supposed to find some of those at least.
Yeah. And even when we've been now testing this for some additional learning analytic tools. Usually the best thing is that okay, they are giving us I had to use 2 minutes to check that okay, who has been lagging behind, but otherwise they are using pretty much the same information.
Sylvia has a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. I said that's very interesting to see that. I do not use that much learning analytics, but I'm very interested into using it, especially in the focus of the diversity of my students, because I see, depending on the topic that I'm having in the lecture, on that Thursday, there is the interest, the pre-knowledge, everything is so diverse. So I was just wondering, do you maybe know any tool or any do you have any ideas how I can, when I start and just give a little input and then already to see how my students are on that day, so that during the class I can use the learning analytics, and then, the second phase, like the group work or whatever I'm preparing, already organize matching to the results of the learning analytics I get, let's say, from first 20 minutes or something of the lecture. So how I can maybe use that during the lesson, but not like for the next course, if it makes sense.
Yeah. It's this real-time learning analytics is a very, very huge challenge. We've been discussing a lot during the last this fall, and I still think that okay, the best way is that okay, you have some surveys on during that okay, was this difficult or not? So something that they can easily write, because it's otherwise it's very or then it might be that okay, if they are able to submit some quiz or some some material on during that meeting. So then we can get the idea that okay, they were doing fine, or they had challenges. But even these short surveys that okay, how you're feeling today, or
Oh, okay.
so that could be most simple way.
So what I use is that, when I give them a topic, then I can see how far they are. So it's, so I know, should I wait another 5 minutes, or in 2 minutes, the last two people, they have to finish and done. So, just the planning, to how to proceed. However, I tried that, what you said, like a short survey, but however, during the lecture, I would need time, to analyze that and then to group them and so on. So I was just wondering if you're like, just, from the guts, do you know something? But I, as I said, I'm not really working in this field, but very interested in that. But it could be, good to know, maybe if you find something out, maybe to send us the idea about like real-time learning analytics. Thank you. Thanks.
That would be really interesting for our models and micro-credentials to get this kind of how to fix the level of learning at the moment for each individual. So that would be a really good idea. And I think I'm just writing it down for our further kind of ideas of what kind of tools to implement. Anyway, thanks, Vesa. Okay, for our second keynote expert, we have Taina Rytkönen-Suontausta. She's an e-learning specialist in the University of Eastern Finland from the Student and Learning Services. Taina is going to talk about how a particular workshop activity tool in the Moodle environment is put up and how it is used to help teachers in the job of assessment, so that we could use peers and peer assessment in online and asynchronous learning platforms for our models and micro-credentials in the future. So please, Taina, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello all. Anssi just introduced me, so I don't need to. So I'm going to show you some ideas about using a workshop activity on Moodle. So here's a workshop I created for you, and it's on your environment on DigiCampus. So you can try it yourself later. But now I'm going to show you the settings of this workshop, and then I'm going to show you how to proceed with a student on this workshop. So here's the set of phase you can see here, and now I'm going to on to settings, and I'm going to show you shortly about the settings I have already created here, because it's easier to show ready settings than start from the beginning, because it's so short time to show you this. So here's first workshop name and description, and then grading settings. I'm not going to go those in detail. Submission settings here. Your task is to write a haiku poem here and something else there. And submission types, there you can see it that I have set it on online text, because haiku is very short. So it's online text is easier than have a file attachment or something else. And here's late submissions, if you like to allow submissions after the deadline. The problem with the workshop when you are creating MOOCs is that this should be always scheduled. I'm not sure if you tick that box, so it could be that it's working all the time, but because there are several phases on the workshop, so I don't think this can help you with that. So always when you are using workshop on MOOCs, you have to announce certain times when it's available. For example, 4 times per year or something like that, because it's always a scheduled workshop. Then here is assessment settings and about evaluation criteria here. And then feedback if students can give each other feedback. And when the workshop is ended, you can, as a teacher, you can write here kind of a summary of about the feedback or those submissions or whatever you like to write about. Then you can use this conclusion area here. I have ticked here example submissions. I'm going to show you how it works, but it's good to have example submissions on workshops because then students can practice how to give the feedback to each other. So that's why I'm usually using example submissions on workshops. Yes, then availability, you can automatically schedule your workshop here. So first is open for submissions from 2, and then submissions deadline, that's 2. By open for assessment, then the next level. 2 first are from 2 for submissions, and then 2 last are from 2 for assessment or peer assessment in this case. You can use Turnitin Integrity plugin here also. And then are some common module settings and activity completion and so on. So I just click here, save and display. Now we are on the same place where we were at the beginning. And here you can see these restrictions, how students can receive grade from this workshop. And here are those phases, and you can see that these in setup phase there are 2 ticks already, and next I should edit assessment form and prepare example submissions, and then I can switch to the next phase. That means that I can keep this workshop open for students. But first I have to edit that assessment form, and I can find it here. And here is first aspect 1. I'm giving criteria for the I'm copying them. First aspect is that a poem is written. Something has been written there. I'm not changing these grades here now because I'm just showing you the idea. And then next aspect is a little bit longer so that it's in right form, that haiku poem. And then aspect 3, just a moment. There. Kind of a style of the haiku. Now I just save the assessment form. Now I can add example here. I have here some haikus, so I'm going to add example submission here for the students so that they can practice that peer assessment using that assessment form. All right. We go back to workshop first place, and here you can see that all the phases in this setup phase are marked except the last one, switch to the next phase. Or here you can also click on switch to the submission phase. So now I give students permission to send their submissions, and I'm going to send you that. Can I find the chat? So if you like, you can try that. You can change your role, switch role to student if you like before trying it. But I'm going to show it via student's perspective next. Here is our test student. Oili, who is now sending the submission. It looks, for student, it looks like this.
Excuse me, we cannot see that one. It still shows us the teacher view.
Okay. Okay. So I have to change the share. Thank you. I don't use Zoom so much nowadays, so is it now better?
Yeah, now we can see the student.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So here, student is going to submit their work. And here it comes.
I think you need to do the example assessment first.
Ah, sorry. That's right. Very good. Of course. So here you can see that no grade yet. Assess first. I just very quickly. This is the same assessment form as I created. Now I can submit that work. Okay, here is our students' submission, and now I'm going to see if I have there's only way the students can go on is that teacher opens the next page. So if you haven't done this, so our students has nothing to assess, but let's see if there are any other submissions there. Not yet. So now our student is on assessment phase, and they are waiting for other submissions in order to get a possibility to assess them. And then you can always choose how many other submissions you are giving to, for example, 3 other submissions our student has to assess. And I also used a self-assessment feature on this workshop, so that student also has to assess their own work. So it's very handy when you are trying to find out what is the student's own idea about their own submission and how they are assessing others' works. So it's very advisable to use that also, that self-assessment, that they are assessing own submission. It gives them also skills to assess their own work and objectively. Then after that, there is a grading evaluation phase. Teacher moves to that phase. Then teacher has to compare those points each student has got, and then maybe change if there is lots of differences between self-assessment and peer assessment. But of course, if you don't use self-assessment, then it's easy and it can be also automatic. So on MOOC courses, of course, it's easier to have it automatically, that you are not evaluating or assessing it yourself, but only accepting always that automatic results that students get. And then when you click on last phase closed, then students can get those results how they have made. All right. Very quickly demonstrated. I'm trying to find that teachers here. Teachers view. Oh yes, there are four submissions. Now I can change to evaluation phase, and this is a teacher's phase. Going back to students' previous assessment phase, so I can try to see if our students can go to assess others. No assigned submission to assess. It's okay. This is very little bit not so complicated, but there are many phases here, so it's hard, difficult to demonstrate all phases completely in this short time.
Okay, thank you, Taina. I think what we can get from this is that we have this workshop tool, and it's included in pretty much all the Moodle environments.
Yes.
So it requires from the teacher, if we want in our models and micro-credentials, if we want to use this tool as a peer assessment tool, it requires quite a lot of things which we need to do beforehand in advance. So as you saw, there are a lot of different things to do, but it's still doable, and it helps us in regarding so that we don't have to read quite a lot of different kind of papers. So I think there is something that we can use from this tool in our models, and I think it's beneficial that for the next session that we create an example task which shows a bit better those things, that there really is submissions and that we can do that assessment as well. But thank you, Taina, for presenting the very basics of this tool. I think it's very, very beneficial for us in our future work on the models and micro-credentials.
Okay, I'm glad. This was helpful for you. Thank you.
For our third keynote speaker, we have Andreas Fischer from a company called Thingling. Thingling is one of our associated partners in this project, and Andreas is actually one of our alumni from the University of Eastern Finland, and he's very keen on topics of sustainability and STEM education in general. But today he's going to talk about the scenario tool and how artificial intelligence is used in Thingling's tools to make creating scenarios and presentations much more easier and faster for us as teachers. So go ahead, please, Andreas, make your magic.
try my best. Thank you so much, Ansi, and also thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here and also very, very honored to be here, as well as an alumni from UEF. As Ansi already said, just gonna allow that. I hope you can see my screen. All right. Yes, wonderful. Yes. So I'm currently working for ThingLink as a customer support specialist, and I work very closely with a lot of our educational customers to become successful with ThingLink and our platform, and basically get them to not only comfortable with using our platform, but also to achieve their projects. And Ansi invited me today to talk a bit more about the AI solutions and integrations we currently offer on ThingLink and how it could help to transform those more static learning materials such as worksheets, PDF files, and so forth into more interactive learning experiences. And I'm aware that you are already somewhat familiar with ThingLink, so that's why I would not give you the more broadly explanation, but I would just jump into our scenario builder. And there are a few bits and pieces that I will delve deeper into as we go through the new tool. So with our scenario builder, you can basically create interactive learning experiences, whether those are simulations, presentations, digital escape rooms, and so forth. And I got the beautiful task to create a quick scenario on a more sustainability related topic, and I choose the ecological footprint. And the way it works using our Create with AI tool is that you click on Create, and then you have an option to choose between different AI integrations we currently support, as well as still develop. And for time purposes, I will choose the Flash version, which is just a bit faster. In order to create a scenario with the AI tool, you have to shortly describe your training scenario. So what is the scenario about? And here it really doesn't matter if you use English as a language. It also works just as fine with in Finnish or German or whatever language. And then you can upload a file, which is optional, but it always helps AI to, if you have, let's say, a presentation you would like to turn into a scenario or a simulation, that it has somewhat some information of what the training should be. And here is just a PDF about the ecological footprint, which I upload. And here you can decide your output language. And we will just stick with English for now. Then you click on continue, and now you have to decide whether you would like to have a linear or a branch scenario. Linear is really, as the word just said, that you have each media or each block in a linear structure, but you can also choose branched, that a learner can basically decide what he or she wants to learn. So let's click on branched. And now AI creates, based on your description as well as the PDF you uploaded, learning objectives. And you can always edit them, modify them, and we're just gonna leave them as they are and take that. And now it takes about 30 to 45 seconds to create the framework of the structure for you. So it basically just helps you to already have some guidelines what your scenario could look like based on the description and the PDF file you uploaded, as well as the learning objectives and content areas. And here it's quite important that you are very specific with the description, because it really helps AI to build a structure based on what you would like to have. And yes, you can see it works pretty fast. And now you have your learning objectives, content areas, welcome, and now you have a wonderful outline of your scenario and what it could look like based on the description and the PDF I uploaded. But this is only one part of the whole AI support we do have on ThingLink. So now what you can do is you can basically edit the whole structure just to based on your preferences and what you would like to teach. So for example, if we click on diet choices, you now have the input from the PDF file as well as some addition from the AI tool, as it always adds some information if there is information missing. And now you can either improve the writing with the tool, or you can also suggest a matching image based on the content of the blog. And now you obviously can't see the output, but you can click on preview and then you can already see what it is. Again, AI works with the context that is given here. So if you're not happy with it, you can just simply cancel it, and you either can create it once more, or you just convert the whole block into a thinging scene, meaning it now creates a 2D image with the content as tags overlaid over the image. And we can also here have a look how it looks like. It looks somewhat like this, and here we have now all the information from the blog. Again, if you're not happy with it, you can either redo the action, or you can just simply delete it. But again, you remain the boss. So like AI only helps you to create a structure. So what it means, you can either still use AI, but you can also just simply choose your own scene that you have previously created and prepared. So for example, I will choose this to have it here, and I can just modify as I go. So for example, if I don't want to have this and that part here, but rather prefer to use my own media that I created beforehand, I can edit it here, and I can just now step by step add my contents and my media. And now you can just use those lines to connect each block. You can also, if you would like to have more questions, for example, you can, let me move that a bit over to the side. You can now use also different AI tools such as generate questions, where you now have all the content areas and learning objectives, as well as some of the feedback from the entire scenario. So now, since the first branch was about consumption habits, we're just gonna delete this and those. And now, based on the content you have here, and you can also delete everything and give your own prompt, but now it basically creates 5 questions based on the prompt that was given here. And it's now being added on the back, and I just can now move my blocks in order. Lastly, one thing you can also do. So for example, if, as I said, you're not happy with that image, we can might as well delete it and then add a new block by media. So instead of now choosing one of the media I created before, I can now use some of the other AI tools to create images. So for example, we could now also generate 360 images, or use some of our images that we have available in our library. But for this purpose, I just gonna choose a 2D image, and we could now generate, let's say, a set table with different dietary choices. And now we can generate an image based on the prompt. And if we're happy with it, we can just click on continue use it. And now we either manually add the different tags to the image, but if I want to make my life easier once more, I can just also use our AI integration for the tag generation to describe what kind of tags and information I would like to have. So for example, create tags based on the impact of different kind of meat. processed food. Yeah, let's go with fish too, and so forth. Or you could just extend it, and then you click on continue, and basically now AI creates you those tags for you. And now once your scene has been created, it will appear here, and you can just move it in there. One example of a linear structure, I'm gonna close that, would be another scenario I created before, which sort of is a more gamified version of an ecological footprint example where learners has to basically go through and has to measure one's ecological footprint in order to escape the scenario. And we could also use scenarios to build scenarios within scenarios. So for example, if we would like to have a fourth branch, which would be an example, we could also now, with the embed code or just with the URL, we could have the scenario here also embedded. Lastly, I would like to show that all the content that has been created here can also be then translated into different languages. Let's choose Finnish. So now the whole scenario will be translated for you. And basically for the end user, they then have the possibility to basically change between languages. But just to give you a short preview, and then I will stop talking, just the way it looks once it's ready. So now we have our learning objectives. We have a beautiful 2D image that is interactive. And here we can also upload different kind of media. I choose the PDF file that I based the scenario on. We can also choose 2D images, 3D models, and so forth. And now the learner has a bit more also visual content to go through the scenario. And you can basically just build it based on your preference and what you would like to upload here. Again, we also support 3D models that can be used. And now we basically get to our branch where we can now make the decisions. And here's just an example of a 360 image where you have more images, different layout, and you can also connect scenes with other scenes within a scenario. So for now, we're on a farm. And now if I would like to change the scene, I'm now in a different scene. And that's just basically how you would structure it. If you would like to then make it also available for the learner to change the language as they go through a scenario, you can then also make it available for them. So now once I reloaded my page, I can now switch to Finnish. And now the entire scenario is in Finnish. Of course, since this has been created with Canva, that is not translated, but basically the content. Yeah, that is basically just a short introduction into what you can do with Thingling and the new scenario builder. And there are many more things, but what I would also like to highlight before I stop, that all the media can also be created outside the scenario builder. So you don't necessarily have to use the scenario builder, but you can also, in your media, you can then create different kind of scenes and learning experiences as you go. And you can just use them. And again, they're very easy to then also connect with each other through different tags. For example, a transit tag can be used to then connect different scenes with each other. So now I'm in this scene, and now I transit to the farm I showed you beforehand. that is basically everything from my end. If you have any questions while you're working with ThingLink, or you want to bounce ideas back and forth about certain projects or visions you might have, you're more than welcome to contact me. And Ansi, you can gladly share my email with all the participants. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. You just assume that everyone is familiar with the tool, but we haven't gone through it, but it's okay. But just demonstrated really in a good way that all those opportunities which could be used. You just started with the scenario, but ended with different kind of, I wouldn't say static, but single medias, which you can do with ThingLink. Anyone, any questions about the ThingLink, the tool which we have? Jingo, yes.
Thank you, Andreas, for the great presentation.
Hi, Jingo.
Really glad to see. My question is, I really like to use the ThingLink, but I also want to use it for the learning analytics. So do you see features that we could see the logo files of the participant, or do you have any plan to provide those data set?
Yes, so I can share my screen one more time, and I can quickly show it to you. So if you have created a scenario, you then have the option to also look into different kind of statistics. So far, you probably won't see any statistics since we just created the scenario. But basically, if you then share it with your participants, here you will see some of the statistics based on unique visitors and also other visitors who signed up on ThingLink. But unique visitors means that they basically are not connected to your organization, but you will still see some of the statistics. But if you share it, for example, with a cohort, for example, within the project, and you want to see just how the engagement is of the scenario you created, you will then see the user, so the user's name, how long it took them to go through the entire scenario. If you build in scores, so for example, if they answered a question correctly or they got to a certain block, you can assign scores to them to, for example, make sure that they went through an entire module before starting the new one. And then, of course, you can also check for goals. So that is some of the statistics you can view. There are also other statistics. For example, can you see my my main screen now? Wonderful. So for example, if you have a scene that you have created, you can then also have statistics on the different tags. So how many of the tags were opened, how often were they opened, and so forth. So there are different ways of getting the statistics, and the good thing is that we also have the integration with Moodle. So all the statistics that are being captured here can then also be directly transferred to Moodle.
Okay, we have heard 3 excellent keynote speakers and presentations about learning analytics and peer assessment and how artificial intelligence is used in creating such a wonderful multimedia presentations for our use in asynchronous and online learning in the future. I hope these presentations have been helpful and inspiring for you in your future work when creating those models and micro credentials for our project, but also in your future STEM education.